Today on AcupunctureMasterclass.com, we're taking a close-up look at needling tips and tricks to make your needling less uncomfortable for patients and more effective with your clinical outcomes. Let's take a look. Hey everyone, welcome back to AcupunctureMasterclass.com, where we help students and new grads of acupuncture and naturopathic programs be better acupuncturists. Today, we're going to be looking at some needling tips and tricks. I've got three specific tricks for you. One is a needle bending technique. The other is a needle plumping technique. The third one is a holding the skin taut technique. And make sure you stay to the end and look at our freehanding tips and tricks. If you're going to be doing any freehand needling, you're going to want to check this out. Okay, welcome to my close-up acupuncture pad here. We're going to go through those needling techniques so you guys can get your needles in a little bit easier. The first technique I want to show you is what I like to call the needle bending technique. Points like CB17 on flat surfaces like the sternum. The way I usually do points like CB17 is, of course, we'll go in on an oblique or sub-Q angle before the tap in. And I'll just do a good strong tap in. And what I mean by the needle bending technique, I'm really going to exaggerate this quite a bit, is that when you insert the needle, you're going to bend the needle so that the needle shaft goes towards the skin surface. And that way when the needle goes in, it's going to stay subcutaneous. So as I bend the needle right like that, I'm just going to slide it right in, and there it goes straight in. When it's done, it'll sit in that nice subcutaneous angle. So what I want you guys to be careful of is that sometimes, when you tap the needle in and you grab the needle will start bending the opposite way. You don't want the needle to be bending towards the skin. The whole purpose of needling in this way is to keep things subcutaneous. So make sure you're grabbing nice and close to the shaft of the needle, bend that needle, and then go ahead and insert. Things will stay nice and subcutaneous for you, and avoid hitting the bone. So that is technique number one. The second technique I want to show you has to do with more of like grasping the skin. So sometimes you actually need to plump up the skin. You guys can kind of see how I'm just plumping up, not pinching the skin together, but just plumping up the skin a little bit, which allows a little bit of room between the skin surface and any of the anatomy down below. Great to do for points like lung 7 on the wrist. And so the way I would do this one again is before I even needle, I'll just plump up that skin just a little bit. Again, approaching my needling on a subcutaneous angle before I tap. Good strong tap. I'll hold that plump with my left hand, just like so, holding that plump. And then I will take my needle and just straight in, right in that nice space underneath the skin. So plumping the skin can be very helpful for points like lung 7, among many others. But plumping is what I like to do in certain cases. Somewhat opposite to that is what I like to say is holding the skin taut. So sometimes you actually need to hold the skin so it doesn't move too much. And this comes in handy with some freehanding techniques. Certain points on the face require you to kind of hold the skin taut so that it doesn't go anywhere. Sometimes the face will move too much. The skin on the face will move quite a bit when you try to put the needle in. So holding that skin taut can be very helpful. I like to do this, for example, stomach 4, right at the corner of the mouth. So once again, I will usually just needle in normally. So just normal needling, usually subcutaneous. Good strong tap, and then holding the skin taut, making sure that that skin doesn't go anywhere, and then go ahead and insert the needle like that. And that will just keep the skin from being pushed around too much when you're needling. And finally, the last technique that I wanted to show people was some helpful tips on freehanding. So freehanding technique is very helpful on flat surfaces like the scalp. I really encourage you guys to get comfortable with freehanding on the scalp. And the first thing I'd like people to take careful note of is how they're holding the needle prior to doing scalp or freehanding technique. I often see students holding as far away as possible. They just want to be super clean, and they want to be careful, and they don't want to hurt anyone, so they're grabbing way too far away from the needle itself. You gotta use as much of that handle as you need to, and grab nice and close to that shaft. Usually I put my index finger in the direction of the force that I want to go into. So this is kind of holding the needle in this particular way, rather than holding the needle like this. You can get away with it if you hold the needle in this particular way, but for me, I feel I get a lot more force by holding the needle nice and close to the shaft, index finger in the direction of your needle tip, okay? So once you come to your surface of the skin, so if we were needling scalp, of course we'd be on a bit of a subcutaneous angle, so I'll just kind of use that as a guide. Now, what I want you guys to avoid doing is, a lot of people, they'll get really close to the skin surface and then they'll jab like that. They'll kind of like hold it back and then poke it in. You don't want to be doing that, of course. What I prefer people to do is actually gently having the tip against the skin surface and then straight in just like so. And you're going to find an initial resistance going through the skin. Just fight through that. A nice even distribution of power as you go through. You'll get in every time. Most people, they will stop as soon as they get resistance and they'll let go, and they're not quite in the point yet. So you have to fight through that initial resistance. And then once you're through the skin, it goes in like butter, as long as your angle is appropriate. If, let's say, you were on the scalp and your angle is too sharp, you are not going to get very far, of course. You need to keep things subcutaneous when you're working on the scalp. So that is how one might want to freehandle on the scalp. Freehanding in other ways, of course, the same philosophy. You want to be holding that needle as close as you can to the shaft. I usually like to distract the skin surrounding the area and then just straight in. Of course, my acupuncture pad is very tough. It's a little difficult to go through. This is a longer needle as well. But the main thing is how you hold the needle, getting through that initial bit of resistance, and just keep going, keep going. That's freehand. That's it for today, guys. Thanks for joining. Please send in your acupuncture quandaries. Any issues you feel you have and you would like to see a video on, send it. I'll do a video on it. We'll make it right for you. So please send your emails and video ideas at any time, and comment in the section below. Please subscribe. Thanks again. We'll see you next time.